Hello guys and welcome to Gas City Gaming's Amonkhet set review. In this video we'll be taking a look at a couple different things. We'll be looking at the multicolored cards like you see here, but we also be taking a look at all the new Aftermath cards. The Aftermath cards are the new split cards, and while some of them are monocolored, I wanted to include them all in the same video so we kind of got that mechanic down so we can remember. But keep in mind we're looking at these cards in more of a limited context, so our drafts, sealed events like your pre-release, hopefully that you go to and enjoy. Support your local gaming store. I'm going to talk about these cards, but I would love to hear what you guys think as well. If you agree with me, disagree with me, if you have your own thoughts about these cards, please comment below. Love to hear back from you. So we're going to take a look here first at the Ahn-Crop Champion. It's 2 generic mana, a green and a white for an uncommon human warrior. It's a 4/4, and you may exert Ahn-Crop Champion as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control. So for your green-white exert deck, this is the dude you want. Well, you see that a lot in sealed decks, in limited decks like draft sealed decks. These multicolored cards that are usually at uncommon are the cards that really solidify you in a certain strategy, right? This is going to be your green-white exert card, obviously, because it lets all your other exert guys untap, right? If you somehow get multiples of this, you could alternate them and exert everything you have every turn. So if you get like a Naya is green, red, and white exert deck with one of these guys, there's so much exert in all those 3 colors. If you draft that, well, you're just going to have fun. You're going to have a lot of fun with those decks. But for Ahn-Crop Champion, I really like it. Again, if you're in these colors, if you're playing that exert deck, this is the uncommon you want to see. This is your payoff. I like pack 2. You open that Ahn-Crop Champion, and you took a couple good green and white exert cards in your first pack. This is, you're like, okay, I know what I'm drafting now. Third pack, you open one. This is your payoff. If you're in those colors, just like, oh my goodness, I got 1 of them, I got 2 of them. If it's just really good, it gives all your other creatures an untaps. It's important to remember, it doesn't untap itself, so you do have to wait a turn before you can do that again. But with your first swing, you probably did some pretty good damage anyway. So Ahn-Crop Champion, definitely a really good card in your exert decks. Aven Wind Guide is 2 generic mana, a white and a blue. For an uncommon bird warrior, it's a 2/3 with flying and vigilance. Creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance. This guy, so our blue-white mechanic that we saw quite a bit of is Embalm. What Embalm does, like it says on the bottom here, this guy has as well, is 4 generic mana, a white and a blue. Exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie bird warrior with no mana cost. Embalm only as a sorcery. So whenever you bomb a card, it's an exact copy of it, but it's a token. So it gives all your token, aka all the embalmed cards that you have embalmed and entered as those zombie tokens, gives them flying and vigilance. So this is your big payoff card in blue-white. If you've taken a couple good embalm cards, a couple good in blue, a couple good ones in white, this is your blue-white flyer draft deck. Awesome payoff uncommon card. Aven Wind Guide, again, it's a decent card on its own. 2/3 flyer for 4 vigilance. It's good, but can be amazing in the right deck. Again, you open a pack 3, you open a pack 2, it's like, okay, I know what I'm drafting now. You open a pack 3 and you're just like, oh my goodness, I got another one. This is just go hard, and this is gonna be an awesome deck. Aven Wind Guide, again, obviously I'm a pretty big fan. Bounty of the Luxa is 2 generic, a green and a blue for a rare enchantment that says at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all flood counters from Bounty of the Luxa. Wait a minute, I just played this. There are no flood counters on Bounty of the Luxa. If no counters were removed from this way, oh, okay, here we go. Put a flood counter on Bounty of the Luxa and draw a card. Otherwise, add colorless green-blue to your mana pool. So basically, if you take all the flood counters off of it, you get 3 mana. If you don't, you draw a card. You get one or the other at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. So the turn you play this, you get nothing. That's the only thing that makes me a little iffy about it. After that, it's real good. Like if you have a good creature down already, like there's the blue illusion creature. That's a 2/3 for 2. Play another good maybe Ancient Crab on turn 3. So you have a couple good blockers. Then I'm okay playing Bounty of the Luxa. But I really don't like doing nothing for a turn. It just makes me kind of nervous. I know I've said this looks like a little bit slower format, but it just makes me nervous doing nothing. So Bounty of the Luxa, though, again, in the right kind of deck, could get there because you draws you cards and ramps you, which is exactly what blue-green wants to be doing. So here's our first Aftermath card. Now you guys are going to struggle with me. You're going to have to tilt it, just do that. So all these cards are meant to be read as the name of the first card, insert to, T-O, then name of the second card. So this card's total name is called Commit to Memory. So the first half is Commit. It's 3 generic mana and a blue for a rare instant. Put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library, second from the top. Then Memory is a sorcery, so you can have the two halves of these can be different speeds. So you can, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can cast Commit. Then on your turn, you can cast the cast Memory, the sorcery that has Aftermath. So it says cast this spell. So you're gonna have to do this only from your graveyard, then exile it. So you cannot cast Memory from your hand, right? And after you do that, it is exiled. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. So hopefully whatever you got rid of with Commit went away, right? And hopefully Memory drew you 7 cards, and maybe you get attacked with Kefnet then. Hopefully you already have Kefnet out. Wheel of Fading in Limited I've been on, because usually by the turn you're spending your 6 mana. Maybe yes, you're empty-handed, but if you're playing this heavy in blue, you're probably not. But your opponent very well could be. And yes, I'm okay with Commit, for sure. Helps you solve the answer, but I'd rather make them shuffle somewhere else, or there are some blue mill cards as well. I'd rather do that instead, rather than letting them draw 7 cards, because as each player gets to draw 7 cards, I really don't want my opponent to draw 7 cards, no matter what they have in their hand. Because, you do that turn 7-ish, they're going to have 25 cards left in their deck, and they get to draw 7 of them. They get to draw, what's that, 28% of their deck? There's a decent chance they're going to draw one of the cards they just shuffled in. So, Commit I'm a fan of, but I don't think I'm casting Memory too often, unfortunately. Here we have Cut to Ribbons, right? Yes, I'm going to stop babying you with those. I'm just going to say them. So it's Cut to Ribbons. Generic mana and a red for Cut. It is a rare sorcery. Cut deals 4 damage to target creature. Solid red removal. All right. Ribbons is X black for a sorcery. It has Aftermath, so cast it only from your graveyard. Exile it after you do. Each opponent loses X life. That's fine as well. I'm happy playing in the aggressive red-black deck. I'm playing this 100%. Kills a creature, drains them for life. It gives you reach in your red-black deck that there's really not a lot of in this format. And kill something of theirs to get you in, and then after you've got in a couple times, they're at 3, 4, 5 left. Late in the game, you get to drain them and kill them. Seems good to me. Much bigger fan of Cut to Ribbons here. Decimator Beetle is 3 generic mana, a black and a green, for an uncommon creature that's an insect. It does a 4/5. When it enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Decimator Beetle attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from target creature you control, and put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature defending player controls. Note, if you can't do, because of the AND clause, if you can't do the first one, you can't do the second one. But in your black-green deck, like we've seen if you watch the black and green videos, you're going to have plenty of -1 counters. It gives you at least the first one, because Decimator Beetle enters with at least 1 on itself as a 3/4, attacks, turns into a 4/5, and shrinks, hopefully, their blocker to the point where they'll let you get in for damage, or maybe even just kill their blocker, right? Decimator Beetle, again, is that just really good card for, if you watch the black and green set reviews, how many times did I talk about -1/-1 counters and how big they can be, how big I've seen them be when kind of seeing these cards played with. And Decimator Beetle is going to be a really good card for you guys, honestly. Take it if you're at all in that -1/-1 counter theme, and you are going to have tons of fun with it. Destined to Lead. The first half, Destined, is a generic mana and a black for an uncommon instant. It says target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's kind of your black removal spell. Nice thing, you can also protect, so if something says destroy, or somebody has a burn spell trying to kill one of your creatures, you can protect it, or as you play this on your blocker or play this on your attacker that they're blocking, and you can use kind of a removal spell that way as well. Either way, it's going to cost your opponent a card, and it's only one card for you. Lead, the second half, is generic, 3 generic and a green for a sorcery with Aftermath, obviously. All creatures able to block target creature. All creatures able to block a target creature this turn do so. So this is one of those things that really, they want you to do both halves in a turn. It is an uncommon, so there's a potential you draft more than one. So you could, cast Lead, then cast Destined, and kind of blow somebody out. If you put this on something with Death Touch, you're laughing. You just kind of board wipe them, right? So you put this on our Bitterblade Warrior, and you cast Lead on it, and then you exert it, and you just killed 3 things, right? Up to 3 things if they had that many. So it's ideally you want to cast this on one turn because it lets everything else on your board get through. All your smaller dudes, bigger dudes, everything else. So you can put this on your 1/1, and it's the old version of this was called Lure. So that's exactly what you did. You put it on your 1/1, your little teeny duder, and attacked with him and attacked with your big 7/7s and 5/5s and everything else. And those all got through, and everything else was lured to your little teeny 1/1, and everything jumped in front of it. That kind of effect has been good before. This card can really clean out some board stalls. Like I said, if you have some Death Touch out, it gets gross. And your black-green deck is not short of that. So I would definitely play a copy or 2, maybe even of Destined to Lead if I got my hands on. Dusk to Dawn. This is one of the biggest first spoilers. Was actually a spoiler, not even like a revealed card, because it kind of leaked. I think it was a Spanish version of it. It's 2 generic and 2 white for a rare sorcery is Dusk. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. All right. In your white deck, if you've watched the review, there's not. Oh, there are white creatures that are 3 power or greater, but there's a lot of 2Xs in it, right? Just like there usually is. Even in black, if you have your -1/-1 creatures in black, a lot of them are 2 power once you put the counters on them, right? Or if you have black zombies, they're 2/2 zombies, right? So destroy everything that's bigger than a 2 power creature. Second half is Dawn, 3 generic mana and 2 white for sorcery with Aftermath, obviously. Return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Not to the battlefield, not quite that good. It's not Rally the Ancestors, but still really good. It's going to let you recast everything, so if you have any enter the battlefield triggers, those get to go off again. It's just can be a really powerful card if you have things like Bantu's Monument, which we'll see, kind of has a drain and gain effect when you cast creature cards onto it. That can be really good. But just a board wipe and limited is usually something I want to play. It's just, especially when you're playing a kind of a more aggressive white weenie strategy, you can get behind really quick. This lets you blow up the board and refill your hand with everything of yours that has possibly died to your opponent's creatures already. Possibly even just one-sided board wipe, potentially, depending on how your board looks at the time. So Dusk to Dawn, definitely happy pulling this. And just me, or does anybody else really want a foil of this card? Like, oh my goodness, that Dusk half and foil would look so pretty. Anyway, Enigma Drake is generic blue and a red for an uncommon creature. It's a Drake. It is a star 4. Star is the one that's continuously variable. It can change at any point in time. It has flying. Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So if you've watched some of our other videos, you've heard me talk about the blue-red Spells Matter deck. This is the payoff guy for that. It's evasive, has 4 toughness, it's going to dodge a lot of removal, or at least live through a lot of removal, and its power is as big as you want its power to be. Again, in limited, you're going to at most have 6 to 8 non-creature spells. Maybe a couple of those are enchantments, so this is going to be 4/4/5/4, kind of at the high end. Still for 3. Hey, a 2/4 flyer for 3. I'll take that. I'll take it every day. Enigma Drake, if you're in that blue-red Spells Matter deck, real good card for you, trust me. Failure to Comply is a generic blue for a rare instant. It says return target spell to its owner's hand. It's a remand without the draw card. But, late game, they're tapping out. Oh my goodness, I'm going to play this big thing. Oh, no. Not. Dang. So I would for sure play that in your blue deck, because it's not a creature spell, it's not a non-creature spell, it's not negate, it's not Essence Scatter, just return it to their hand. Really late game, it's not going to matter. Like if it's a 4-drop they're trying to play when they have 8 or 9 land out, not as good, but most of the game it's going to be an effective spell for you. Comply is a single white mana for choose a card name until your next turn. Your opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name. So because this is only 3 mana, this is one you can easily do both halves of. So you return it to their hand, and if that does happen, you can cast where it's late game and they can afford to do it. You cast the Comply half, and they're sitting back with their hands anyway. They can't cast it again. Reflector Mage on the card it probably should have been on in the first place. So the failure to comply, again, blue-white decks are going to play. This is when we start getting into the multicolored Aftermath cards. Again, they hit their niche, just like multicolored creatures. They hit their niche. They're only going to be playable in so many decks. So you notice that a little bit more. Our legendary creature, Capatra, Vizier of Poisons, is black and green. For a legendary creature, it is a rare human cleric. It's not a Naga. You would think the black-green creature would be a Naga, but anyway. Whenever Capatra, Vizier of Poisons, deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. When you put one or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch. So if you have this and that card that something wrote to the black card with the roaches, it also gives you 1/1s. You're cranking out tokens left, right, and center. Oh my goodness. I don't know how often she's going to hit, because she is just a 2/2 for 2 that swings on turn 3, you know, and possibly into 2/3s or about that size, could just potentially trade. And if I'm your opponent, I want this gone, because it can easily take over the game in a green-black deck that has counters flying all over the place. I'm going to run into a whole nest of snakes sooner or later with Capatra. If I get this card, I know exactly the kind of deck I'm building, right? Obviously, just build around this in and of itself, and you're going to have a good time. Capatra, Vizier of Poisons is see and play in any black-green deck that your sealed pre-releases or drafts are going to play for sure. Heaven to Earth is Heaven is a rare instant. Is X green. Heaven deals X damage to each creature with flying. Again, like we just went over, did we see any flyers in our green cards in our green video? No. You either kill it with spiders, or you kill it with, you know, reach or fighting, or spells like Heaven here. So each creature with flying, it is kind of like Silk Clash Spider's effect. On an instant, granted, so you don't get to repeat it every turn, but still, really good card. Earth says X red red. Earth deals X damage to each creature without flying. So really, over 2 turns, you could board wipe if you wanted. You can kill all the flyers, swing in with your team. Maybe they can't block quite everything. Maybe they take 3 to 5, and then you can play Earth and kill the rest of the stuff too. So, and maybe you can tune Earth to the point where you have a couple things that live, and they have, you know, you can possibly trade it that way. So I would, again, in my red-green decks that are kind of rampy, because these are X costs, so if you can pour some mana into it, do it. If my green-red decks that are a little rampy, maybe not the aggressive decks, because my aggressive decks want to kind of get in under the big things. But this would be a sideboard in those green-red aggressive decks. But in my green-red rampy decks, this is exactly the kind of card I want for those. Honored Crop Captain is red and a white for a uncommon human warrior. Whenever Honored Crop Captain attacks, other attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. That is good. Unfortunately, it's only a 3/2. I mean, unfortunately, it's what it's going to be is what it's going to be. But this is going to get probably killed the first turn it attacks. You're going to get that pump once. Now, if you have the other red card that gives everything else +2/+0, you know, everything gets +3/+0, or I can go getting a little better here. But this is kind of a Trumpet Blast on board. I hate to say the dice removal argument, I don't like that, but this is the first turn this attacks, it's probably going to die. If it doesn't, your opponent either messed up or you're just winning that much anyway. It's a good card in and of itself. I would probably still play a copy if I'm in red-white aggressive strategies, because it helps you get that damage in. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not the oh my goodness card that some of these multicolored creatures can be. Insult to Injury. Insult is 2 generic mana and a red for a rare sorcery. Damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. The second half, Injury says Injury deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. So late game, early game, you know, you can play this on turn 3, and, you know, depending on what your opponent has or doesn't have, you can possibly win like turn 4 or 5, really. Like, you go back and watch our red review, we talked about how you can get some early damage in really quick. And late game, so you have 6 mana open, you can do 4 to creature, 4 to them, plus you attack for a bunch, right? So you can blow up one of their blockers, dome them for 4, put them down to probably less than 10. If you have a 3/3 that hits them, it's going to do 6 instead. So, good early game on turn 3 or 4, good late game on turn 6 or later. I would play this in any red deck that I'm going to play, for sure. Khenra Charioteer is generic red and a green for an uncommon Jackal warrior with 3/3 and trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Yup. Yup. Because what did we talk about in our red aggressive decks? When the board starts to stabilize, because red decks tend to have higher power than they do toughness. So when it starts to stabilize, and their 2/2s can block our 4/2s, this helps us not only trade, but still trade plus damage. Right, so our Khenra Charioteer is something I want, even though you can't have multi-trample, it's something I'm going to play one, next turn attack with it, turn after, play another one, to probably replace the first one that died. But I do enjoy the Khenra Charioteer. This is how your red and green decks, if you can play the green-red aggressive deck, that's real good, and a green-red rampy deck, where we're getting our 5/5s, or 7/6s, or 7/7s, that don't have trample, this gives it to them. This is how those decks get their reach, essentially. When the board starts to come up, you drop a Khenra Charioteer. Note that he doesn't have to attack in order for your other creatures to get trample. It just gives them trample. Everything. Do it. Merciless Javelineer is 2 generic mana, a black and a red. For a creature, it's a Minotaur warrior at uncommon. It is a 4/2, has 2 generic mana, says discard a card. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. That creature can't block this turn. Right? So it turns your hand. This is the kind of thing, our Jund or red, black, green decks, those aggressive decks want, because you can, pay 2, discard 2 cards. Okay, I'm going to kill that blocker, and those 2 can't block, swing in the team. Right? For 4 mana with 2 cards in your hand, maybe that even lets you swing in with your red god because you discarded enough cards. If something died, it lets you swing in with your black god. It itself has 4 power, so it lets you swing in with your green god as well. It does everything that side of the color pie is trying to do in its aggressive side of the decks. So I would definitely play a copy or 2, if you can get multiples, of Merciless Javelineer in your aggressive Jund colored decks. Mouth to Feed. I really like this one. The art on it and the flavor of all these is kind of cool. 2 generic mana and green for a rare. Mouth is a sorcery. It says create a 3/3 green hippo creature token for 3. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Feed is 3 generic mana and a green for a sorcery. It says draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. This is, for me, anyway, this is more a green-blue card. Maybe a green-red card. I would put it more sideboard, potentially my green-red deck. I want those to be rampy and big creatures, big aggressive a little bit. This more green-blue because I'm drawing cards, I'm sitting back, I'm dirtling a little bit, and so I can cast the Aftermath on a turn where, I don't really have any good creatures. Okay, I'm going to draw up 2 or 3 cards. That's where this card kind of falls for me. So it's not a super high pick, but it's going to be a good card. If you open it pack 2, pack 3, you're probably thinking, okay, I'm going to take this. This is a maybe. This might get in there as one of my 6/7. Because again, if I get a couple cartouches, I want to play those instead because they're removal. Or even the blue cartouches with their flying is evasion. So I might play those instead of this. But this would definitely be, possibly one of my 6 to 8 non-creature spells in like a green-blue deck. Neheb the Worthy is a generic mana, a black and a red for a rare legendary creature, Minotaur warrior. It has first strike. It says other Minotaurs you control have first strike. As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Minotaurs you can control get +2/+0. Whenever Neheb the Worthy deals combat damage to a player, each player discards a card. So, again, this is doing everything you want the Jund colors to do. It's being aggressive, it has first strike. It gives you bonuses for having few cards in your hand, which really get along with their Merciless Javelineer for discarding cards and counters and making things not able to block. They get along really well with that. I personally would want to splash some green cards to just help the toughness, the back end of the deck. But Heb the Worthy and Merciless Javelineer definitely make a really good combo. If you get both, play them for sure. And Heb the Worthy, just like we said, in black and red, there's a lot of Minotaurs. So the Minotaur tribal kind of draft deck is something I kind of want to happen. I've always been a fan of Minotaurs. Never to Return. Never is a generic mana in 2 black for a sorcery that says destroy target creature or planeswalker. We aren't going to get Hero's Downfall back anytime soon. If you aren't familiar, Hero's Downfall was that card, but at instant speed. So they played a planeswalker, got to activate it once, then you killed it on the end of their turn. They got to activate it once. Or maybe not even on the end of the turn, but after they activated it. Returns is also a sorcery. It's 3 generic mana and a black. Exile target card from a graveyard. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you killed it, and then it's just gone. But for 7 mana, destroying something, and like never is good removal for limited. It is. It really is. It's not splashable, unfortunately, because of the double black. Not easily splashable anyway. You have to be fairly committed with your mana base to get the 2 black. Return is not great unless it's, you know, like our blue-white embalm card, that big bomb embalm card. That's something I would want to return away. But there's not a ton of those, and 4 mana for a 2/2 isn't a great rate, but it's something sometimes you just got to do. There's not a ton of graveyard hate in this, so it's something you got to do. Nissa, Steward of Elements. The very first, if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure it's the very first X cost planeswalker. So it costs X green-blue. Sorry, she costs X green-blue for a mythic planeswalker, Nissa. She comes in with X loyalty counters on her. So whatever you put into her, you get back. You cast her turn 3, and she come in with 1. You can cast her turn 5, and she come in with 3. So your green-blue ramp really wants to ramp into Nissa. Her +2, she comes in with +2. Says Scry 2. That's her good blue ability. Her 0 ability says look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nissa's Steward of Elements, you may put that card onto the battlefield. So if it's a land card, into the battlefield. If it's a creature card, you know, depending when you play her, if it's a creature card with equal to or less than her loyalty, you put it on. It's not, you know, 0, subtract that card's converted mana cost from Nissa's loyalty. It's not that. That'd be kind of a cool mechanic, though. It's not that. It's just 0, flip, yep. It could be your 7/7, and you could play her on turn 3, you know, or late in the game, and just you flip the top card of your deck. After a few turns, you're just flipping and getting something for free. Unless you're like your Cartouche or one of your Aftermath cards or something like that, because it's otherwise it just goes back on top if it's not a creature or a land, but still. Her -6, untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste until end of turn. They are still lands. So you could untap those lands to ramp into something, but let's be honest, they're floating islands. Floating forests, I guess. The floating from blue and the forest from green, and they just swing in for 10 probably. I have a hard time seeing this as being bad in any way. Early game, late game. Early game, you drop her turn 3, she goes up, she scries 2. Like I wouldn't want to play her naked, like, you know what I mean? Like no protection, because she doesn't really protect herself when she comes down. So I would want to play something down first, then play Nissa. So maybe play her turn 5-ish. She'd come down with 3 + 2 up to 5. Right? That way, even if they get rid of your blocker, she's probably not going to die. Just again, any planeswalker limit is going to be awesome. I really hope to see standard play. I really like this Nissa, just the ramp and the blue-green, maybe a banned control type deck. I don't know. I like this Nissa, and I want to see her do well. Onward to Victory. Onward is 2 generic mana and a red. It's an uncommon, and it's an Onward half is an instant. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where +X is its power. That's pretty good. This is something I personally would want to pair with Fling. So you got a 4/2, say. You onward it. Okay, it's an 8/2, hit for 8, fling it for another 8, right? That seems pretty good to me. It is an instant, so they could say, okay, you know, I'm going to block this, I'm not going to block that creature. Okay, essentially double strike it. Okay, essentially quadruple strike it because I flinged it at you too. Anyway, Victory is a sorcery. It says target creature gains double strike until end of turn. So if you can, like, late game, magical, this part's getting a little magical Christmas land. So let's say 3/3. 3/3, double it, do 6. Okay, I'm going to give a double strike too. The harder part being, you know, Onward is an instant, so you want to play it after blocks are declared. Victory is a sorcery, so you got to play it later, right? Doesn't pump its power, so Victory and Fling isn't nearly as good as Onward and Fling. So I like the Onward half. Victory is good as well, but I'm playing Victory more in defense for the first strike portion of double strike. But I really do like Onward to Victory in your red-white aggressive decks with a Fling or two in hand. Prepare to fight. It happened. They just decided to name a fight card Fight. It's a generic mana and a white for a rare. A Prepare is an instant. Untap target creature. It gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink till end of turn. Really good defensive card, offensive card. Again, I love the untap mechanics with Exert cards. Exert, get a benefit, untap and pump. I get the benefit again, and I get a pump, and I'm going to gain life. Everything's coming up Millhouse for me if I can do that. Finally, Fight is exactly what it sounds like. Fight is your green removal mechanic. It's 3 generic mana and a green. Target creature, get the exact wording here. Target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. They do damage equal to their power to each other. Things like lifelink do go off when that happens. So you could, for example, play Prepare on your creature at kind of sorcery speed during your first main phase, then fight, you know, say if they only have one blocker, fight that blocker, gain life at that point. So, you know, say your 3/3 becomes a 5/5 with lifelink. Cool. I'm going to fight your 3/3. Okay, I gain 5 life because my creature did 5 damage to your creature, and it has lifelink, so damage gains you life. And then I'm going to attack into you, gain another 5 life, and do damage to you. It's a 15 life swing. You know, you just gained 10, they lost 5. So this is one of those cards that can be real good if you cast it in the same turn, or even just Prepare and then fight later on, just whenever you want from your graveyard. So Prepare to fight. I would definitely be happy playing this in an Exert deck or like a green-white, just good card deck. Rags to Riches. Rags to Riches is a rare. The Rags half costs 2 generic mana and 2 black for a sorcery. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. We keep seeing this get worse and worse. We had Languish for the same cost as -4/-4. His Expertise was -3/-3, but let us play something for free, which is arguably better than Languish, but that's another discussion. Rags is -2/-2. So, Riches is 5 generic mana and 2 blue. It says each opponent chooses a creature. This is how you're reading it too, don't even lie. Each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls. You gain control of those creatures. Each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls. You gain control of those creatures. That seems bad. I thought I read that wrong the first time I read it. I thought I read it wrong, but I read it correctly. That's just real bad. You want to pay 7 Each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls. You gain control of those creatures. So, okay, you're going to get my 1/1. Congratulations on paying 7 mana for your 1/1. Granted, to me, this is too expensive to, you know, I can take a turn playing Rags to wipe out all the 1/1s and X2s. So that when I play Riches, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff back. Thing is, there's 3 mana in between the cost of these 2 spells. I can't turn 4 Rags and turn 5 Riches very easily. Even if I do, you know, play Rags turn 6 and then Riches turn 7, you have a turn, if you're playing like Oketra or something like that, to make another one. Or to play another little janky card, since you can see I have that in my graveyard. I am not a big fan of Rags to Riches, even in your dirtily blue or blue-black deck. I'm just not, it's not doing it for me, guys. Sorry. Reduce to Rebel. 2 generic mana and a blue for an uncommon instant. Says counter target spell unless his controller pays 3. So 1 more expensive mana leak. It's fine. It's not great. Again, late game, it's just kind of dead. It just kind of makes your opponent's spell more expensive. If they want their big bomb, but they have some extra lands, they will just pay the 3. Rebel 2 generic mana and a red. Up to 3 target lands don't untap during their controller's next untap step. I would personally rather cast Rubble on turn 3 than Reduce on turn 3, because it kind of just time walks your opponent. I would cast Reduce as early as I could, so I could cast Rubble as early as I could. This is the kind of thing I'm happy to have in my graveyard, so I can cast that Rubble, prevent my opponent from playing their big blocker, and just get in there for some more either flying damage if I'm playing the blue-red deck, or just some good old aggressive ground pounders if I'm playing the aggressive red deck on the ground as well. I like the Rubble half better than the Reduce half, but I can see this playing in the red-blue deck. It's a good instant / sorcery that fuels our Enigma Drake and is not bad in and of itself. Sammet, Voice of Dissent, is 3 generic mana, a red and a green for a mythic legendary creature. There's a lot of keywords. Legendary creature, human warrior. Here we go. Flash, double strike, vigilance, haste. Other creatures you control have haste. Has a white mana and untap another target creature, and it's a 3/4. Okay. So it's a creature with flash. There's our green. Double strike. It's kind of a white identity as well. So there's our white. Vigilance, there's kind of white as well. Haste, there's our red. Other creatures you control have haste. There's more red. So this seems good. I would play this. It's granted it's 5 for flash, so what you want to do is kind of leave up 5. Oh, I got nothing on the end of your turn, bud. Sorry, I didn't get a 5-drop. Oh, shucks. Then they attack you with something. You drop Sammet in front of it, kill it. Double strike, vigilance. So the 3/4 double strike. They're 4/3. Whatever this is going to block it, kill it from the first strike damage, not take any damage itself. Then whatever you play on your turn 6. Has haste. So you play that big green Hydra, 6/6 haste for 6 and trample, and that seems good. That seems real good. And also, it even has the white and tap to untap another target creature because it says vigilance. So you can exert something, then on your opponent's end step, you can untap it with her, I think it's her untap ability. So I love Sammet. Sammet's great. Sammet's having a good time. And I want to have a good time with Sammet. I'm playing the cards. Don't think like that. In the card, I think I would have fun with this card. Shadowstorm Vizier is a blue and a black for a uncommon creature human cleric. Has flying and says whenever you cycle or discard a card, Shadowstorm Vizier gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I like this. In your blue-black dirtily deck, I'm fine with this. There's a lot of cycling and discarding in black and blue, like one and the other, and I like this card for that. It gives a little bit of flying, so it'll blocks our 2/2 flyers from some of our other decks all day, and you can instant speed cycle to kill something, turn into a 2/4 flyer on defense. That's a little more of a defensive creature than an offensive for me, but I'm still happy playing it. And also, just that's a really cool card. Art on that is really nice. Spring to Mind. Spring is a sorcery for 2 generic and a green. The card is an uncommon. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle your library. Mind is 4 generic mana and 2 blue to draw 2 cards at instant speed. This is okay for your blue-green deck. Not the best thing that I want to be doing, but it's okay. If you don't have a lot of ramp or a lot of fixing, and say if you're playing a Bant color deck and you don't have a lot of fixing, you can go get your planes with this. You probably, because it's double blue, you don't necessarily want to splash the blue half of it. I would splash your 3rd color, be main blue, green, and splash your 3rd color, whatever it is. So you can draw 2 cards later in the game if it does go late. Like your blue-green decks tend to be a little more dirtily, not as aggressive, so you might get to cast the Mind half, but usually I can see it just casting the Spring half. If you don't, if you can hold up a counter spell, you can play Mind at the end of your opponent's turn because it is an instant, but so I'm not that high on it. If this makes it in, it's going to just make the cut for me. Start to Finish. 2 generic mana and a white is start. For an instant, it says create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens with vigilance. It's not Raise the Alarm. Raise the Alarm tokens didn't have vigilance. Vigilance is a thing. So the card is also an uncommon, if I didn't mention. Finish is 2 generic mana and a black for sorcery. It says an additional cost to cast Finish. Sacrifice a creature. Destroy target creature. Bone Splinters, but more expensive because it's on another card. It's literally stapled to another card. Okay, not literally stapled, but it's attached. I would be fine playing this. You know, you get a blocker and you get a removal spell in the same card. So in my blue-white decks, I would be happy playing this. It's what I want to be doing. It's creating tokens, and it's killing things. I'm more than fine with this. It's just destroy target creature. It's not destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Any kind of restrictions with that. It's just destroy. So for 3 mana, I'm happy doing that. Because I can cast start turn 3, make a couple little dudes. I can wait till turn 6, 7 when they start playing their big guy, and then I can finish out of the graveyard. Temmet, Vizier of Naklamun, is white and a blue for a rare legendary creature, human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature token you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Temmet himself is a 2/2. So again, just like our Aven guide, this is one of your big embalm guys. You pull this, you want to be in embalm because your embalm guys are tokens, remember, so it makes one of them imblockable and bigger. He himself has embalm for 3 generic mana, a white and a blue. So keep in mind his token is his embalm, when it happens, he becomes a token of himself. So he can make himself unblockable at that point as well. So you drop him early, you know, you block something with your True Heart Duelist, bring him True Heart Duelist back on turn 3, and it starts swinging in for 3 unblockable every turn. Oh, somebody's like, I'm tired of that, kill Temmet. You're like, okay, bring Temmet back. He swings in for 3 unblockable every turn, and your True Heart Duelist goes on a blocking duty, right? Temmet the Vizier of Naklamun, really good in a blue-white embalm style deck. Real good. Wayward Servant is a white and a black for an uncommon creature. He's a zombie. He's a 2/2. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is one of my favorite kinds of mechanics, that draining, gain, aristocrats type mechanic. It's even in our black and white colors. Black and white, as I'm sure you've known if you've watched all of their set reviews, black and white wants zombies and wants them all day long. This kind of effect in your black-white zombie deck is obviously going to gain and drain for a number of life. At least 5, if not more. This guy is just real good. This guy is going to be the removal magnet for your opponent while you continue to draw your board wide. He's going to draw the targeted removal from your opponent probably because they don't want to keep losing and gaining life. Our last multicolored card of the set is Weaver of Currents. This is generic green and a blue for an uncommon Naga Druid. It is a 2/2. It says tap, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. It's what your green-blue deck wants to be doing. It wants to ramp up to, you know, your big worm spell, adds 2 more mana if you pull a Nissa, makes her X get that much better. This is what your green-blue deck wants to be doing. Take this in your green-blue, maybe even your green-blue X if you want to splash a 3rd color for something, just because your ramp is going to help. Doesn't fix, but adding more ramp is never a bad thing if you're in green-blue, in my opinion. It helps you get to your serpents earlier, helps you get to your big worm trampoline spells, your big green creatures, lets you play them a couple turns early. This guy taps for 2, so you know you have 3 land out. Turn 4, you play your 4th land, and you're playing 6 drops with this Weaver of Currents. You're playing your 6/6 trample on turn 4. Keep in mind you also get embalmment for 4 as well, so that's pretty good. Weaver of Currents, I'm a pretty big fan of course, as long as you're in those colors. That is our last multicolored card for Amonkhet. How do these cards do for you at your pre-release? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Did they perform like you thought they would? Did they not? What did you think? I would love to hear your comments in the comment section below. You can throw me a follow on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dave865, on Twitter at Dave2619. Please, if you like the videos, enjoying the channel, like, share, subscribe, do everything that lets everybody else know that this channel exists. I would love to hear back from you guys, and the more eyes on this channel, the more eyes on Magic Gathering in general, in my opinion, the better, right? So I hope you guys have fun with these cards when you're drafting them, playing with them at your pre-release. I know I will be, so good luck to you guys at your pre-releases or in your drafts, just in Magic in general. Have fun, and have an awesome, awesome rest of your day.